Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news, a daily briefing on stand-up comedy, comedians, and the comedy industry. I've kind of given up on Rooster. I liked the first episode. Episode 2 was not as good, and then the third episode last week made me give up on the show. My wife agrees with me. Robbie Hoffman, now on the show, she says she botched every interaction she had with Steve Carell. Robbie explained, I botched it every time I said hi to him because it's impossible not to be starstruck with him, and he's such a classy man. I have my brother going, did you ask about The Office? Did you ask? And it's like, I can't really just be asking about The Office, but finally I asked about The Office. I literally had to say, hey, my brother loved you in The Office. I'm sad that I don't like it because I like Carell, I like Bill Lawrence, I love McGinley. Just didn't work for me. Nate Bargatze, famously a clean comedian, he said he didn't always surround himself with clean comedians. He said, it's kind of like school. You just find your group that you're kind of going to be with. Weirdly, my group I was the closest to were the dirtiest comedians. Big J. Okerson, Louis J. Gomez, Dan Soder was the dirtiest. I'd open for them. He explains, though, my mind didn't go the route of writing that kind of way, and I never wanted to make someone feel bad in the crowd. He recalled one time he made a joke about prostitutes getting murdered by a serial killer in New York. He said, it worked very much. I'm a young comic. It works very much in those rooms. And then I didn't put it up on YouTube, but it got put up on YouTube. A prostitute saw it and was upset. Nate said, look, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was going to go up. I won't do that joke again. Jim Gaffigan will be the keynote speaker at the NACDS Foundation. They're holding their 28th annual foundation dinner August 15th at the Omni Boston Hotel at the Seaport. The event gathers industry leaders to support the foundation's mission of advancing public health and promoting healthier communities. Kevin Nealon was in the headlines, kind of bragging that he never broke character on SNL. He said, I knew how much time the writers put into those scripts. You don't want to be the one who throws it off. Lorne Michaels doesn't like when the cast breaks. Even if the audience laughs, it doesn't work for the sketch. If you want an example of that, watch the famous More Cowbell sketch. Jimmy Fallon's kind of losing it in the background. Cheech Chong's last movie will be added to Paramount Plus on April 20th, 4/20, if you're in the know. Cheech Chong's last movie follows two of comedy's best buds on a long, laugh-filled drive to a place called The Joint. Along the way, they reflect on their lifelong friendship from childhood to the heights of their careers in the 60s through the 80s and beyond their breakup, and exploring how their counterculture stoner humor evolved into a brand that stands strong over 50 years later with a catalog of movies, packed concerts, platinum-selling records, and even a mobile game. Interspersed is archival footage, moments from the duo on screen and on stage, animations, interviews, and more. I gotta remember, I've been talking about how I've been reflecting on people I've met over the years. I met these guys. I'm going to add them to my little note here that I'm making. Just as I randomly remember that I've met people, I'm just putting them in a notepad on my MacBook. I don't know what I'm doing with this, but I just like to keep lists. The Houston Chronicle caught up with Ali Siddiq. The topic, how to have the best day ever in Houston. I've never been to Houston, so I can't comment on this. 7:30 in the morning, he runs a few miles. At least 3 miles at Tom Bass Park, if we're not doing the full 6.5 miles. That's a good, solid run. At 11:15, he starts taking phone calls and meetings to start the day. Now, what happens between 7? So if he runs 6.5 miles at a reasonable clip and he starts at 7:30, he would be done by 9 o'clock. Almost definitely sooner than that. Guess he goes home and showers. Then at 11:15, he starts taking phone calls and meetings to start the day. At 1 o'clock, he visits the Reggae Bodega. At 4 o'clock, you go to the grocery store. At 6, he hugs his daughter after school. At 8:30, he goes to see his mom. He walks the dog. Mom lives down the street, all right? That works out. At 9:30, he eats dinner with his wife and kids. He hopes his wife is making enchiladas. If she's making enchiladas, I'm all in. My wife is great enchiladas. We have a late dinner. And at midnight, he passes out on the couch for a little while watching sports. So if I'm getting this right, you get up and you run, you have some enchiladas, and you pass out on the couch watching sports. We're more alike than I realized. What do you say we hit Bill Burr's Facebook page and see what's going on? Oh, here's a post. Bill has posted Live at South by Southwest is available now on YouTube. Okay, let's see what people are saying in the comments about Bill Burr. Jonathan wrote, Billy Blood Money is all gas, no brakes. Keith wrote, my jokes are paid for with blood money. Dave says, Bonesaw Bill has some observations. Paru said, Baghdad Bill is on fire. Eric said, it's Billy Burka. Gabriel got right to it and said, go back to Saudi Arabia, you effing sellout. Now, that's not Gabriel Iglesias. It's a different Gabriel. Jared posted, Bill, I was very disappointed at the North Korea show. Can you please respond to my refund email? Bill Burr did not help his career going to Riyadh. A lot of comedians went. Nothing happened, but Bill Burr, for some reason, out of everybody, seems to have taken on the most damage of that. Donnell Rawlings became emotional while reflecting on the loss of Charlie Murphy. Donnell was on the We in Miami podcast. He was asked about Charlie Murphy passing away in 2017. Donnell said it was very difficult because it was like the big brother that I never had. He also shared an anecdote. The only time I ever saw Charlie show any emotion other than being a super hard tough guy is when he was losing his wife. He cried on the phone with me. I've never seen him emotional or vulnerable or anything. It was weird. Charlie's wife, Tisha Taylor Murphy, passed away of cervical cancer in December of 2009. From the Times-Union, a Saratoga Springs hat shop interaction became a standout moment in Chris Fleming's HBO special, turning former clerk Randy Jackson into an unexpected character. Jackson told the Times-Union, Chris Fleming was unfortunately correct. I'm definitely sort of an old lady trapped in a young man's body. The jazz age flapper of it all has never left me. On the day Chris Fleming's special premiered, Jackson woke up to a message from a high school classmate. The message told Jackson that Chris Fleming had dedicated a lengthy segment of his new special to an interaction he had with the hat salesman. Jackson said, it was so funny. Jackson reached out to Chris Fleming over Instagram to let him know he loved the bit. He said, I found him, and I said, I'm the ancient hat boy. I'm the ancient demon. Charlie Berens will perform at the 2026 Lumberjack World Championships. Athletes from around the globe will compete in 21 events that test strength, agility, balance, and precision. Spectators can expect thrilling competitions, including log rolling, boom running, chopping, sawing, axe throwing, and speed climbing, showcasing the elite skills of professional timber sports athletes. The New York Times, under the headline, At Dinners Over Jokes with Comedians, Epstein, that Epstein, honed his networking. They dove into the file, and apparently Jeffrey Epstein sought relationships with comedians. The New York Times reports in 2014, Jeffrey Epstein wanted a bunch of comedians to join him for dinner at an Italian restaurant on the Upper East Side. Chris Rock was high on his list. David Brenner was a probably, then a yes, then ultimately a no. He was under the weather. Louis Black was not to be invited. Apparently, Jeffrey Epstein had not found Louis Black funny when he had come over a year earlier. Chris Rock said no because he had plans with his daughter. Bobby Slayton emailed Jeffrey Epstein ahead of the dinner and said, now the pressure's on me to carry all the funny unless Woody decides to chip in. The Woody, believed to be Woody Allen. The New York Times reminds us none of the comedians have been accused of any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein, and nothing in the email suggests that meeting women was part of the rationale for the gatherings. The New York Times further reminds us Epstein was an earnest fan of comedy who attended shows in Manhattan, Palm Beach, and Montreal. Jackie the Joke Man Martling is quoted here as saying, Jeffrey Epstein told Jackie over a meal, anybody that's really smart loves jokes because they're little problems and the way they work themselves out. Further reporting from the Times, after one dinner in 2015, Jeffrey Epstein emailed Nick DiPaolo, writing, thanks for coming last night. If okay with you, I will contact you on my return to New York. DiPaolo wrote back, give me a little time to process that last part. As you know, you're a bit of a controversial guy. I mean no offense by that at all. LOL. The Times says DiPaolo did not reply to requests for comment, neither did Rock, Allen, Louis Black, or Jackie Martling. The Times further says Louis Black, Slayton, and Jackie have said in interviews that they never saw Epstein hanging out with underage girls. Slayton told a Daily Beast reporter he felt obliged to visit. And let's not wrap up on that story. Let me get a little silly here. I'm worried about Tim Meadows. Why worried about Tim Meadows, Johnny Mac? Well, Tim Meadows says his funniest friend is Adam Sandler. What? Why? There's nothing funny about the great dramatic actor Adam Sandler. How do you find him funny? Tim Meadows, who, again, I've never met Tim Meadows, but I'm worried about you now. Tim Meadows said it. I know a lot of very funny people, but Sandler, I think for me, is the funniest because I've known him so long and we have a really good friendship. We have bits that we do with each other from 30 years ago. Then you create new bits whenever you hang out with him. He loves to laugh and he loves to do bits. I think he's one of the funniest people I know just in terms of talking and hanging out. We can be ourselves with each other. Oh, all right. So maybe he's like really funny in person. That just doesn't translate to anything on, say, Saturday Night Live or movies. All right. That makes sense. I'm less worried about Tim Meadows now. Oh, wait. I should have kept reading. I'm worried about Tim Meadows again. He said, I always say there's very few people from SNL I would drive across the country with, but David Spade is probably in my top 3 or 4 people that I could do that with. To each their own. And that is your comedy news for today. I'll see you tomorrow.